Yo, what's up? In this video, I want to share how to build a dashboard for your Bubble.io application. First of all, my name is Mark and I run a Bubble.io agency, and over the past year, we've built countless applications with various dashboards as well. For example, we've built this portal, education portal, which had a dashboard like this, and this is something that we're going to be building today. I'm going to show you all the tricks I know and how you can replicate it in your application. So first of all, let's note that the dashboard is going to have a tab on the left where you can navigate the pages and the content in the middle. So let's open the editor and let's start doing it. First of all, we want to make sure that we have this structure set up. So this left tab and the main content. Opening the page first, we ensure that the page is set to responsive, and I'm going to go for column. Now, first of all, let's make this smaller. Okay, now let's go back to the UI builder and let's add our main content group. This is the group where everything within our page is going to be contained. So group, and just paste it there. This group will be full width and the height will be fit to its content. Now let's add the bar on the left, and this will be a floating group. A floating group floats above all the elements on the page, and this means that if we scroll the page, the group is always going to stay there without being scrolled. Let's make it a bit narrower to 80, and we want to make it full width of a page. In this case, you can go like this. So min height 250, max height is infinite, so it's going to fill the page. Or actually, much better to do max height 100%, so it never overflows the page. But now, if we go back to our main group, which is this one, and add some content to this main group, and this is just type some text for now, we're going to change this a bit later, we will see that it disappears. And the reason it disappears is because this floating group is floating over our text group. So what we're going to do is, this group is 280 in width. So we want to give a margin on the left of this group so that this does not overflow. So let's quickly do that. 280. And now you see we have this margin and the groups are perfectly in place. Another cool thing to do here is to add a padding. So just to make it visually more appealing, I'll add 20 pixels on each side and 80 pixels top and bottom. And there we go. This is our main group now. The content is going to be here and the bar is going to be here, for which we're also going to add a 20 padding on right, left, and that's it. All right, now we have the basic structure of the page down. Let's start adding some elements. First of all, the logo on top. For this, we're simply going to take an image and upload a logo. I prepared this screenshot for this tutorial. So this is just the logo of the company that we're building this stuff for. So here we want to keep this element aspect ratio fixed so it doesn't break. And the width is obviously too wide. So let's try like 180. Still too big in my opinion. Let's try 120. Perhaps even still too big. 100 is fine. Now the question is, how do we want to align these things? Over here we see that the tabs are left aligned, so we can keep it left aligned for now. We're going to come back to that later. All right, next thing that's important, now that we have the basic structure of our page down, we need to create this mechanism when you click these tabs that the page switches from one to the other. For that, we need buttons of some sort and for this page to swap. So let's create it. We know that every button we have here is going to perform the same action, which is switch the page. We also know that the buttons are going to have a very similar structure. So instead of us creating every button, copy pasting it, and then if you want to change something later on, it's not going to work. We are going to create a reusable element of this button. So let's create that, and we're going to call it button sidebar. This way, we're gonna only create the element once, and we can simply just like use it multiple times to swap the page. All right, remove this. Here's our button. First of all, let's make the dimensions correct. We know that the width of the thing is 280 pixels with a 20/20 padding on every side. So it's 280 minus 20, which is the 240. So we are gonna go for the width of 240, just all of these 240. And height of it, this is too much. I think something like 80 or maybe even 60 would be better suited. All right, so let's do that. Perfect. Now, let's add some padding. You see here, there's some padding, that's some padding. So I think a padding of 20, or in this case, probably speaking from design principles, something like 12 would work as well. So a padding of 12 on every side, padding of 12 top and bottom. There we go. This is already looking much better. So now this should be a row because we have an image on the left and the text on the right. Let's add an image. Now the size of the image is definitely way too large for what we are searching for. So let's go with, first of all, keep the aspect ratio fixed of 1:1. And let's make a width of it like, let's try 20. That's too small. 40. That's too big. So I think somewhere like 36 looks about right, no? Yeah, this looks about right. Okay, let's keep it at 36. And now let's add a text on the left. We want to make sure that the text is in the middle of the container. And also, since this is a row, let's apply gap spacing, which is going to be equal to 8 pixels. This way we have some space between the image and the text. However, now we know that every button is going to have its own text. So instead of setting this text from the get-go, we are going to add some parameters to our reusable element. Here, let's add an icon, so the image. This is going to be dynamic value, and this is going to be an image. So we can set it from our editor, and we don't have to set it for every button separately. This is not optional, so this is mandatory. And another one is text, so the text on the button, which is going to be dynamic, and type of it is going to be text. Again, not optional. Finally, I like to keep this link, dynamic value, and text. So what this is going to allow us to do is set the URL parameter. I'm going to get back to this a little bit later in this tutorial, but just bear with me. We'll keep it there. For now, what we care about is the icon and the text. So this text is going to be a dynamic type, and it's going to be this button sidebar. So exactly what we have done here, this button sidebar, text. And the image is going to be a dynamic image, and it's going to be button sidebars icon. There we go. So now we obviously are going to come back to this button to style it later, but for now let's keep this button as it is, and let's add it to our page just for me to show you how it's going to work. So let's go back to our index page. Now we want to find that button sidebar, and let's drop 1. Let's drop 2. Actually, where is it? Let's say our page is going to have 3 of these buttons. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Now there is no space in between these buttons, so maybe this floating group could benefit from having a spacing. I would say a space of 12 pixels here would be nice. There we go. They're a bit more spaced out now. This also, okay, so first of all, actually, let's add the icons. So you see these things are popping red now. So let's start by uploading our images. This would be a home, so I download some icons here. Oh, but they're not sorted. It's a bit annoying. Okay, let's just set envelope. For this sake tutorial, it doesn't matter. So we'll set this there. Here, we'll set the download one. Here, we'll set the house. There we go. Or actually, if this is the house, let it be the first one. So the text will be home. And the link I'll put to home, and I'll explain what it is in just a bit. This will be send, and this will be send, and this will be download, and this will be download. Actually, this should start from a cap. There we go. All right, so now if we preview the page, we will see, there we go. Each of the buttons has the text, but we have made the element only once. We've got the logo. Obviously, the page still looks very ugly, so let's work on that. Now, the first thing I notice is that the texts are not bold enough, the icons are too close to the text, and the icons are too big. So let's get back and edit this button again, just make it a bit more pretty. So here. Let's put it to the middle of the row. Let's make it smaller. So let's say 20 pixels. Let's make the distance here instead of 8. Let's set it to 12. And this probably, for the sake of this tutorial, let's not make it too complicated, but maybe put it to 16 and bold. Let's now check out whether it is looking better. Yeah, it's looking somewhat decent, I would say. Good enough. Okay, let's go back to the index page. What's still missing is this is way too close to the top, so let's give this floating group a 40 pixels padding on top and bottom. Let's reload the page to see how it looks like. Well, yeah, that looks very acceptable. Now, another thing I noticed is that there is no like distinction between the sidebar and the main page. So what could be cool is to give this floating group a shadow. So let's go to its appearance, and here, shadow style, outset. That's a bit way too saturated for me, so let's put it maybe to 30%. Yeah, that could work. So let's see how it looks like. There we go, we now have this sidebar. What's still a bit weird to my personal eye is that there is not enough space on the side here, so let's correct that by adding a 40 pixels on the left and right actually. And also, you notice that this icon, for me personally, it's a bit way too much to the, or actually, let me see. It's a bit better. But what's weird for me is that the space between the icon and the buttons is small, so I'll add a bottom margin of 40 pixels to this. Yeah, that's too much. Let's do 20. And usually we design these things in Figma before, but as this is just a technical tutorial, I didn't bother, but I guess you get the point. There we go. We now have the sidebar. So now we want to make these buttons functional to finish the dashboard. First of all, it would be nice if when hovered, these buttons somehow light up. So we're going to get back to button. And the beautiful thing about this is because this is a reusable element, we don't need to edit every single button. We can only edit the button once. So we go here and conditional. When this custom nope, is it? Exactly, when button sidebar hovered. In this case, actually, to do it better, I would, oh yeah, let's do it this way, it doesn't matter. Okay, so when button sidebar is hovered, background, color is gonna be some shade of light gray like this. Let's now check our preview page. You see, we now get this beautiful action going on here. Also, just noticed that in this instance, I would prefer to have some more space here, some less space here, and you see this because we changed the padding, it's not correctly aligned, so let's fix that. First of all, we go to index. The padding on the left, let's actually go back to 20 as I had it before. But now the button itself, let's add a bigger padding on left and right. We had, let's set 20 and 20 there. Let's check how it looks like. There we go, this looks more acceptable to me. And we could, for example, now on this goes down, but it's fine. Just the preview, and let's round its corners to, for example, 8. So it looks more acceptable. There we go, this looks a bit better. Now we need to add the functionality. So when I click one of these buttons, the content here needs to adjust accordingly. There are multiple ways to do this. One is through variables, but the best way to do dashboards is to do it through URL parameter. Because when a user reloads the page, instead of it always landing on the default home page, it's gonna stay on the page that the user had selected previously. All right, let's add this functionality. So first of all, this page needs to be able to detect what parameter we have set for the page. And to do this, I'm gonna add a variable. I like to do this, and in our agency, this is how we do it. We do it through a pop-up that is never visible to a user. And there we store our hidden variables. It's a very good practice to do it that way. User is never going to see it, but you have all your variables in one place, so they're never going to get lost within your bubble.io project. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a group to this pop-up. There we go. We are add a text to this group. This text is going to be called URL parameter. It's just for us to then later on be able to find this group and find this variable in our project. The group is going to contain text, and the text of it is going to be get data from page URL. We're going to get the parameter, and the parameter name is, we're going to select what this is going to be. I'll call it tab and text. So this group, let's also rename it, and we always rename var URL tab. So this group is always going to contain our URL parameter. And so whenever we want to see which content is displayed on the page, we're always going to reference this group. Now, let's add the logic to set these parameters through buttons. And I just realized I added this to the wrong place, so let me just cut this and put it onto our index page and not onto our button. So this has to be on our index page. Let's paste this. There we go. But it's basically the same exact logic, nothing changes. Right, there we go. So now we are on our index page. We have the URL parameter set up. Let's now set the buttons up. We go back to the button sidebar. We need to add an action. So whenever this thing is clicked, and you cannot click this, so, right, give me a second. Yes, you can. So we'll just group these into a row container. Basically the same thing as before. It was 12, 12. And I added actually padding to the side of this, but we're going to get rid of this. Sorry. And this group is going to have 12, 12, 12, 12, 20, 20. All right. So now if someone clicks onto this group, we're going to add the workflow to it. What we're going to do is we will navigate, go to page. We are going to stay on the same page where the button is at, but we are going to send more parameters to the page. And we are going to send the parameter tab, and we are going to send button sidebars link. And so this was the reason why we set the link parameter to. And so now having this, let me show you how this is going to work. So if I click on home, you see the tab switches to home. If I click on send, nothing happens. Why? Let me check why. This should be working. This is very strange. Oh yes, I know why. Because we did not expand the group. So this is a thing here. So let me go back here. Basically, this group is not full width, so we have to allow it to be full width. So fit with the content, we have to disable it, and this way we are all going to be able to click them effortlessly. So yes, now if I hit send, we see that the tab is sent, and if I disable the debugger mode as well, it's going to be clear to see for you. So there we go. So I click on send, the tab is sent. I click on download, the tab is download. I click on home, the tab is home. So we're just navigating through the same page by changing this parameter. And now to fetch the content, which is going to be displayed here, we can use this. And we are going to be using it by our variable. This is why we have set up this variable over here, URL parameter, that is going to read that information. So this thing here is always going to equate to this over here. In this case, it's going to be home. So finally, to finish that functionality, we're going to go to group A, and within group A, let's delete this placeholder text. I prefer to create groups for each of the home, for each of the pages. So this will be group home. We can copy and paste it. And we can paste it again. This will be the group send, and this will be group download. Now, we only want to make sure that these groups are visible whenever the parameter matches the group. So first of all, the groups are not going to be visible on page load. And each of the groups is going to have a conditional visibility condition. So when Now we can use our variable URL tab text is, so this is group home, so is home, and make sure that this text is exactly the same as the link text that you have added here. So this is going to be home. Now we can copy the condition of this and paste it to here. This is going to be send, and this is going to be download. Actually should have made it visible. And whenever the condition is true, this element is visible. Okay. Now finally, let's actually edit the content of the groups. Let's first of all not fit width, so it's full width. And now just to demonstrate you what it's going to do, we're going to add a text to everyone. This is going to be this is home. Let's copy this, paste it here. This is send. Let's paste this, and this is download. And the content you put into these can be whatever you want. For example, I could put an image if I wanted to the tab send. Let's upload some image, for example, I don't know, let's put this icon into here. Obviously it's going to look disgusting, but I just want to demonstrate how this works. The purpose of this tutorial is not to create a beautiful dashboard. The purpose of this tutorial is to teach you how to build dashboards like this. Right, let's get back to our page, reload, and you see this is home because the tab is home. And if I click on send, you see this is sent. You now see that it's popped off lower than this. The reason why it's still like popping in the wrong place is because we need to ensure that our groups collapse when hidden. Otherwise, this does not work exactly as expected. Also, we notice that when I click download, nothing shows up. Why? Let me check the condition. Because I misspelled this, and this is what download. There we go. This should be working now. So home, send, download, and you see. And this can be filled with whatever content you want. This can be styled as you want. There we go. There is one important thing left to do, because now whenever users land on this page without the tab parameter, nothing's gonna show. So we want to ensure that this condition never occurs and that users land on home if they go onto this dashboard from another page. And to do this, we are going to go into our workflows. We are going to use a pages loaded event, and we are going to check. So first of all, we are going to navigate to the same page. So navigate to page, current page, send more parameters to page. We're going to send the tab equals home, but we only going to do this when the get URL. So we are going to get the page parameter only when the tab is empty. So if the tab of the page is empty, then we are going to go onto the dashboard home. If there's something available, we are going to stay on that page. Let's see how this works now. If I reload, we see we land on page home. And there we go. We can now use this dashboard. We can further stylize this dashboard. For example, another thing I really like to add is that for users to see on which page they are, to highlight the current tab. To do this, we're going to go to the button and quickly add something else. So for this group, for button sidebar conditional when, and we are going to get data from page URL, we are going to get tab. So whenever the tab is this button sidebar link, so whenever the current page is selected, then we are going to highlight this in, let's say, a background color. Let's give it like a light shade of blue or something. Sorry, something like this. So now let's check it out. You see the selected tab. The user is always able to know where he's located. This is the basic logic. Feel free to stylize it as you want. Feel free to play around with it. Obviously, there are many ways to do this, but this is the way we do it at our agency. And this is the way we were able to craft a page that looks like this. There you go. Hope you enjoyed. Follow me for more Babel tutorials and see you in the next video.